having real conversations that will help us to move forward towards that masterpiece that we've always been designed to be. And I was just saying to Dr. Joy that it's there already. It's just sometimes we haven't fully discovered it. So that is where, as we keep talking and we keep having these conversations, we are coming together, we are learning, and we are growing. So welcome again. Welcome to Kingdom Men Part 2. Today we are talking about Kingdom Men. And last week when we ended our conversation, Dr. Joy, we ended at the point where we talked about the man, his God. And today we want to continue and talk about the man and his purpose. You know, everyone talks about purpose and everyone, you know, defines purpose in a different way. You know, but when it comes to kingdom men, you know, what is the purpose? Why do we even have to have purpose as kingdom men? Why is it needed? And should we be concerned that we know the purpose as a kingdom man? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's many questions in one, but here, purpose. Yes, I would say that purpose is important. It's critical, if I should put it that way. Because without purpose or without knowing our purpose, then we will do just about anything that occurs to us, and then we would easily miss the mark. God is a purposeful God. When in the beginning, he said, let us make man in our image. Already he was beginning to set a goal and you know, establish his purpose, you know, so that and so we as kingdom men, meaning men that are representing the kingdom of God on earth, need to have purpose. And if I should give it a go, I would say that we all have a general purpose as kingdom men, and then each of us has a unique, specific purpose as well. Yes, so we cannot just bunch all of us into one purpose, but if I should talk about a general purpose, I would say that the first thing God wants kingdom men to do on earth is to keep the earth, because that's the first job that God gave us. You know, when he created Adam in the Garden of Eden, the first thing he did was in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, he said, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to take care of it.
Take care of it.
So we are caretakers. We are people who are meant to keep, preserve, protect, and maintain, you know, the earth in its original form and possibly improve it, you know, in an improved form. So yeah, that's what the first thing I would say that we should be focused on as kingdom men is doing a good job as caretakers of the earth that God has placed us in. And then two other things before we move on, and I know we will talk about the specific purpose later.
Yes.
But the general purpose of kingdom men, I think the second one, apart from keeping the earth, would be to subdue the earth and have dominion. Which it was also given to us right from the beginning. Genesis chapter 1:28, God gave us the duty to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. And each of us has a domain, a portion of the earth or a portion of God's kingdom that we have jurisdiction over.
Amazing.
And I like to call it either a domain, your area of calling, or even your room.
I like that, your room.
Yeah, your room. And there is, you know, I like to put quotes on Facebook and all over. One day I put a quote that says, there is enough room in your room.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, there is enough room. It is only when we are not in our room that we feel like there isn't enough room.
Oh, Dr. Joy, you have to say that again. So
Yeah.
when you say there's enough room in our room, so within our domain, within our jurisdiction, within where the man has been placed, you're saying that there's enough. It's just maybe you may not be aware of it, but there is enough
Yeah.
for you
It,
to,
it,
wow.
it maybe we are not actually in our room.
We are not in our room.
And that is why we feel like we are suffocating, or we feel like there isn't enough room. And so it's important for us to really find our room, because before God made Adam, he made sure there was everything that he needed.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need to look at the Garden of Eden not as a geographical location, but as a concept. It's a divine concept.
Oh, Dr. Joy.
Which we are describing as a room. And Dr. I learned a lot of things from Dr. Miles Monroe. He said there's a difference between your work and your job. And when we're doing our work, sometimes the job is just to pay the bills, right?
Yes.
The job is just to pay the bills. And the job can be a component of your work, but usually our work is bigger than just our jobs. And so that's the second thing, I think, to subdue the earth and have dominion over it. And the third thing that I believe is a purpose, God's purpose for all kingdom men in general, and all of his children for that matter, is to glorify God.
Wow.
Is to glorify God on earth, because we are placed here as God's representatives, as ambassadors of the kingdom. And the job of the ambassador is to make the president or the king look good.
Look good. Yes.
Make him look good. Show the nature of God to the earth. And when we do that, we are glorifying him. I think it's Revelations 4:11 that says, "Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created."
Yes.
And so that's, those three areas to, first of all, to keep and maintain the garden, which is the earth. Two, to have dominion, to subdue and have dominion. And three, to glorify God. Those who say that's God's general purpose for all kingdom men. Then the specific purpose is something I believe we're going to talk more about as we go along. Yeah.
Yes. I think that is so important how you just put it, because I think you said so much. I want to go back and peel some of them apart, because you said that the man is supposed to be a caretaker. And in our current world, in our current day, are we really seeing the caretakers take care of the things that they've been assigned to? And why, if not why is it that we are not getting? Because when you talk about caretaker today, I think about women. It looks like that role is actually more of the woman who is the caretaker than it is for the man who was originally supposed to be the one who is taking care of it, having the ownership of it. Let's talk about that a bit. I have other questions in your first one, but I think this is really, it just hit me like caretaker. I'm like, oh, well, I thought it was a woman.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate because you would realize that somewhere, I think it was in Ezekiel, that God said he was looking for a man to stand in the gap, so that he will not destroy the city. And he was looking for a man, and so God places a lot of importance on the authority and the office of a man in the land.
Yes, and that doesn't discount the woman.
And no, not at all.
No.
If you were talking about kingdom women today, it would be a similar story.
Yes.
Because God has a special place for the kingdom woman as well, that the man cannot venture into. The man, a man is helpless in the domain of a woman.
Right. Amazing.
Okay, now, so you're asking the question. It's true that it looks like we, in many ways, I think Dr. Tony Evans said we have, what we have now is more like a manless world.
Oh.
And that cannot be. We cannot drop the ball. And if there are any men listening, we need to assume our place as kingdom men, because God, if we don't, then we are stifling the hand of God. And Dr. Masmuro said something. He said that, spirit beings cannot function in the earth realm.
Wow.
Now, so God cannot do anything on earth but except through us.
Yeah.
And so when we don't occupy our places and do our kingdom responsibility, we're stifling the hand of God. And the same way the devil needs a body, he needs to occupy a body in order to function.
Yeah.
So we become a battleground. Our bodies become a battleground, and the devil is trying to win men to his side. We have men who are drinking their lives away. We have men who are just wasting their lives away. And we have men who are just ignorant of what they are supposed to be doing. And we also have, so it's just an evidence of what the devil is doing. It's a battle. We are a battleground.
Yes.
And the more we give in to the devil, the less we give in to God. The more we give in to God, the less we give in to the devil. So, so we need to be conscious of that battle going on. It is true that the influence of the man is not as strong as God would like us to be. And that's why we need to rise up. That's why we need to have this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe.
I think that is so true, because sometimes it feels like, okay, where are the men? Where are the men of courage? Where are the men who will rise up and stand? Because everything pivots back to the man. Yeah. In Adam, all men sin. It's not in Eve, even though you can argue that it's Eve and all, it's in Adam. Everything is so, centered on the man, that it's so important that his position is really, is grounded. And it's something that we really pray and we hope that as we have these conversations, we will start to see that our men are rising up, they're doing what they have to do. Because really, like you said, the hand of God is stretched out. He's looking. It's just, where are the men who will answer that call to say that I am here, I'm ready to do what you want me to do? So that's the thing. Men are the caretakers. They are the original caretakers, not the women. So for a lot of men who may not know it or may have forgotten about it, today is a good reminder. You are the caretaker. We are looking to you to take care of your domain. But I also like what you said about your room, your room and your influence, your domain. How do you find that? So there's that overarching, plan for a kingdom man. But then getting to that specific purpose that you as a man should have, to find your room, to operate in your room, to excel in that place, that also can be hard. I mean, a lot of us women, we will raise our hands, we will go talk to people, I don't see that happening with the men a lot. So help us here. What do you say to the guys who are watching today, who are like, okay, I hear you. We all have this purpose, but where do I start? Maybe I've gone so far away from even knowing that I have a purpose, and I'm buried in the life. I just do the rhythms and everything. I am not clearly focused on anything. How do I find my room? That's right.
Very important question. And ideally, this is something that it's a failure in our system, in that our parenting, our educational setup and everything is not structured to help us in this area. So we as individual men, would have, I mean, we need to fill in the gap. We need to advocate for ourselves, right, and educate ourselves. It's so critical. If I heard you right, you're asking how a man, a kingdom man for that matter, can find his room, his purpose, his place on earth. It's one of the chapters in the book, one of the subjects that I devoted to a chapter 2 in the book, which is the chapter on discover your purpose. Right. Discover your purpose. And over there, I shared a few things. The first thing I shared is that if we are actually made by God, if God is our creator, then he becomes the manufacturer. And anytime we want to find the purpose of a product, we go to the manufacturer. We consult the mind of the manufacturer. So connecting with source.
Connecting with source.
Connecting with source should be the very first step in discovering our room, our purpose. Yeah. If we are not connected with God, if we don't have a relationship with God, it will be almost impossible to find your purpose on earth. So that is how it begins. And then we need to ask questions. We need to ask questions, very, very deep-seated questions of ourselves and of the people in our lives. We need to ask ourselves, for instance, what am I good at? What occupies my mind all the time? Sometimes you realize that you daydream. Your mind is always going to a particular place or particular places, and you catch yourself all the time daydreaming. God is impressing something on your heart about something you need to address. Wow. And that can be one of the areas. There's so many different things. Another one is to find out, what do I lose track of time doing? What are some of the things that I enjoy doing so much that I don't even care about how much time I am spending on it? All those things will point to our desires or the things that we're naturally made to do. So that when you're doing those things, nothing else matters. Yeah. Nothing else matters. What do I, and then sometimes too, you want to find out, one of the questions to ask yourself is, what do I hate with a passion? Yeah, because what you hate with a passion can be a pointer to your calling. Yeah, I mean, Moses hated, hated slavery so much that he ended up killing somebody. He hated it so much that he ended up inadvertently killing somebody. And that shows what he is called to do.
A deliverer.
To be a deliverer. And then it's important to study, for instance, study our design. We go to school to study many different things, but we don't take time to study ourselves. Our design, for instance, the design of a cup is different from the design of a pen.
Yes.
And if you try to use a pen to hold water, it will be one of the most frustrating things you will do.
Amazing.
So our designs are also a pointer to what we are made to do. Yeah, and there are some things that some people flow easily in that others will be frustrated, trying to do. And that's another area. And then one area, let it be that I would say has been particularly helpful to me as an individual is the area of feedback from others.
Amazing. As a man.
As a man, and you just said it. It's very hard for a man men don't like to be told what to do.
Yep.
That's somehow, for some reason, it looks like it's part of masculinity to be yourself and not take orders from others. But the people in our lives can play a very important role in giving us, in pointing us to what we are made to, our purpose on earth. I would say Reverend Samson, there was one night that we were in a Friday night service, and Reverend Samson was teaching. He was, I don't know exactly what he was saying at the time, but then he made a statement to us, and he said, do you guys realize that anytime you interact with Brother Joy, you get encouraged? He said something to that. I'm paraphrasing. And then everybody, I was shocked, I was caught off guard, and then everybody was like, oh yes, that's true, that's true. And that statement, Lady Pastor, that statement really gave me a new tangent in life. And on our way back from church that day, I was asking my wife, did you hear what Reverend Samson said? And she said, oh, what, don't you know this all along? Haven't you known this all along?
Wow.
Anytime that I felt down, anytime that anyone feels down and they interact with you, they get encouraged, they get uplifted, and I'm like, okay. That was when I was just beginning to, I think I was in nursing school, or I was about to go to nursing school. And from that day, I decided that I was going to specialize in psychiatry. I'm going to be a counselor, and I'll be doing this for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So
it's feedback
from others. Feedback.
So what about the men who are listening or who will listen in the future, who are today very enclosed, very defensive, don't want to hear the feedback? How are they going to break through? How would you be able to break through that and become a man who knows your room? Because again, like you said, you won't have it all together. You can know some things about you, and then a lot of people who also know a lot of things about you that if you can add it to what you know about you, will make a great difference. Because one time Bishop Dagan said something, he said that notice what others notice. And that for me was also a great marker and a great way for looking at things. You have to notice what others notice about you, because sometimes you may discount it because it comes to you easily. Like, oh, I can organize a lot of things easily. But when if I was to say it, I'll not put it as something that is I do easily. But someone will say, oh, but that is your strength, and that would be a great thing to know if I can notice it. So someone who is closed in. Last week we talked about the 3 E's: exposure, and then education, and then excellence. Exposing ourselves as men. How do we do that? We need to break out of our silos, of our just isolation, and be open to the feedback and other men, even not coaching, but just interacting. How do we do that?
Yeah, I think that it takes humility. It takes a certain level of humility, and the only way we can really be good leaders is to be in tune with others around us, because there is no leader without an audience, without a team. I've once watched, I think my wife and I always make a joke about this. This army commander who kept going is like, Joe boy, and there was nobody behind him. Right? He thought he was really leading, and he was like, hey, with all the energy. By the time he realized, he was a leader of nothing. And yet our place is a place of leadership on earth as kingdom men. And without an audience, without a team, without connection with people, we cannot play our leadership role effectively. And it takes humility to know I don't have it all. I believe that at some point in life, we will all get to realize we don't have it all together.
Oh, yes.
So for some people, it comes a little later. But if it came to you early, we need to be thankful that we don't have it all together and we need the input of others. You know, it takes a village, right? It takes a village. It doesn't just take one person. And so I would say the earlier we can learn it, I mean, if it's too hard to connect with people in person, there are many resources these days. I mean, there are books. There are I call YouTube a YouTube university.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we have a whole university that is free of charge. That you can learn everything and anything on YouTube.
Absolutely.
And you can even start to talk about the resource in the Bible, in the Holy Bible, the word, the unadulterated word of God. There are huge sources of information out there. We can virtually put ourselves through school, learning from many people. In fact, we are still learning from people who died centuries ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they are still mentoring us. They are still, I think somebody said that the world is ruled by dead men.
Oh, wow. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. The Shakespeare's, Martin Luther King genius. I mean, yeah, they are still ruling as of today. Anyway, so I think it's just that curiosity and the humility to learn. I mean, we are all products of people, of investments that others have made in us. I mean, as I'm speaking, I believe my mother is on her knees somewhere praying for me. And I mean, how could we say that we don't need others in our lives?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Joy, in your experience, when someone has now, as a kingdom man, found his room and is now there, is that all there is to it? Do they have to do anything to develop? Do they just stay in the room and say, okay, this is where I am. I am the head of this house. I am the head of whatever. I am doing this, and that is all. Is there, are there dimensions to it where now I find my room and I have to build on that room? And like you said at the beginning, not just, finding taking care of the earth, but possibly just enhancing it, doing a better job at it, keeping it to the utmost. And how do you develop? Like, once you find your room, do you just stop there, or is there room to develop?
Absolutely. God always gives us things in their raw state. But he does not expect them back in a raw state.
You have to say that again.
God always gives us things in a raw state, but he does not want it back in a raw state.
In a raw state.
And that is why the servant that had 5 talents had to get 5 more.
Wow.
And the servant that had 2 talents had to get 2 more. And the one that returned it as is got a rebuke.
Wow.
Yes, so it's important for us to know that, I mean, and I'll read a quote, which I included in the book from Dr. Mensa Otabil. He said this, it's a long one, I'll read it. It says, God does not accept from us what he gave to us in the same state as it was when he gave it to us. When God gives us talents, he only recognizes and commends the value we add to it. Similarly, in this world, so we're now moving from God's level down to the earth, the world, okay?
Yeah.
It's similarly in this world, street ways are our raw ways of doing things, our natural ways of doing things, unpolished ways of doing things. Street ways can help you at street level, but when you get to the throne room in the corridors of power, just the way you talk and the way you walk can disqualify you.
This is a quote. This is a quote.
That is a quote that I took from the Thames. I actually pieced it together. It was 2 different quotes that I put together from him. But the whole idea is that God is looking for us to enhance, to upgrade, to give back to him a better version of what he gives to us.
Wow.
And that's what I call developing your purpose. So after we've discovered our purposes, we need to develop our purposes. And that's why we go to school. You know, school is meant to help us to refine, to polish, to, you know, to prepare, to cook if you want. You know, when you go buy grocery, you go to the farm and harvest crops, we need to cook it before we can serve it to the people in our households.
Amazing.
So the preparation of your purpose is important. And sometimes people serve their purpose to the world in a raw state.
Yeah.
And when you do that, number one, it will be devalued. People will not place value on your purpose. They will not pay any high price for it.
Yes.
And then secondly, it doesn't last long because it is not refined.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it doesn't last long. It's not refined. And so it's important for us to add value to what we are given so we can serve a good quality product to the world that will last, that will stand the test of time. And then that will command good value.
Good value.
Yeah.
Mr. Joy, this is so good. This particular one that is so good. I mean, it reminds me of something that, you know, Dr. Evans had said in the book or in his series on Kingdom Men. And he said, you know, the woman is a reflection of the man. And I don't think that men have seen it that way. And I hadn't even thought of it till he said it. But when, you know, God says that you have to present her, or the Bible is saying that present her without blemish, you know, it's like you took a very imperfect person and gave it to this man. And now you're saying that he should present her back to you without blemish. How is he going to do it? You know, and I am like blown away to say that the woman is a reflection. If your woman is not the level that you want her to be, that is on you. I know it's I'm treading some waters here, but I think that is important because a lot of, you know, times kingdom men assume that, oh, if the woman is doing her own thing, she's fine and all that. And we don't take the ownership to the end because you're supposed to bring her back to her God in a refined and a better position than what he gave to you. Amazing. But how are they going to do it, Dr. Joy? How are kingdom men going to do it? How are they going to own this? Because some of the women are like leap years ahead of the man. And it's like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to manage this one, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But is it still their responsibility?
Oh, absolutely. Whether we know or not, it's our responsibility. And I believe that these are some of the things that we are going to give an account of. And so we need to get started on, you know, I think the key in this area is having a close relationship with God. Yeah. Because if we have a close relationship with God, he will tell us, he will show us what to do. Yeah. He will show us how to polish, how to refine, how to add value to the things that he has put us in charge of, and the women that he has entrusted into our hands. Wow. He will show us. And I've always said something like, as soon as you get married or you decide to get married, you need to enroll in the school of wives or school of women, because, you know, every man must have graduated from the school of women in order to be a good husband. I mean, it works the other way around as well. But if we don't know the purpose of a woman, the place of a woman, what God, you know, where a woman occupies in the scheme of things, then there is going to be the risk of abuse. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we see a lot of abuse around. And the abuse that we talk about is just the ones that we see on the surface. but
Absolutely.
there is subtle, very,
Abuse.
very silent abuse going on in
Yes.
that we don't know. We just don't know how to handle this special person that God has placed in our lives.
Amazing. Amazing. Because when we started talking and you talked about, man was given the mandate to subdue the earth. He wasn't giving the mandate to subdue a woman.
No, the earth.
He was subduing the earth.
That's right. Thank you for pointing this out. We're not called to dominate men and women, other men and women. We are called to dominate and subdue the earth, specifically our part of the earth that we have jurisdiction over.
Wow. Wow.
Which is the Garden of Eden.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to be submitted completely to God to be able to take care of the things he's entrusted to you, because when you're not connected, it's almost impossible to do it. Because I feel like your role is hard, honestly.
and for some reason, it must be culture, it must be society that has built this, this trait in men to not succumb, to not open up, to not be receptive to teaching and correction and all of that. But then we in the kingdom have, the thing about kingdom or domains is that there are values, principles, ways of life, in every kingdom. Yes. The way we do things here.
The way we do things here.
So the kingdom man knows to be humble. The kingdom man knows to run to God every time, each time, every morning, every moment. Say, help me, Lord, not necessarily to society or CNN. Or we need to run to God for our values. And one of the values is to be teachable, malleable. I mean, look at God being the potter and we being the clay. The clay in the hands of the potter is completely, submitted.
Amazing.
The potter pulverizes it, and makes it into a mold and then crafts it again and remold it, and the clay doesn't talk.
Oh my goodness. That's a whole message on its own.
Yeah. So I think that we need to get to that place of malleability, teachability, receptivity, so God can really make of us what he wants to do.
Wow. I think Dr. Joy, this one is amazing. This, I think you need a whole, session to dwell on this one, because I think we need a whole lot of understanding in that area. Because another thing that I hear a lot from men is, oh, I am submitted to God. Like, we can't see it. Like, you can be a pastor. It doesn't mean you're submitted to God. Yeah. You can be a man of God. It doesn't, because when you're submitted to God, we will see it. The way you treat the people around you, the way your humility comes along, we will see it in your self-awareness, in your caring. Or am I mistaken? Am I thinking more from a woman's perspective? Because how would we know that someone is submitted to God? Is it just because they pray morning to evening as a kingdom man? Is it because they go to church every day? How would we know? What are some of the things that we can see if we were to even say we can measure it as a kingdom man who is submitted to God? How would that look like?
To be submitted to God, and I think the things that you mentioned are important. Yeah. Like being, those are the outward aspects of submission. The fact that you're reading, spending time in the Word, yeah, that you're praying regularly, you are, part of God's family, fellowshipping regularly. Those are the procedural or the outward sides of things. But then, as you know, that our relationship with God is more personal, it's more in-depth, it shows more in our character. The fruit that we bear, And Galatians 5:22-23, right? If those fruits are not being seen in us, then we are just going through the motions.
We're going through the motions.
We're just going through the motions. The love, the joy, the temperance, faithfulness, and all. They are all important. I think they are actually the first things that anybody should look at to determine if we are submitted to God or not.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think so. So yes, we should go through the procedures. They are important because nobody can bear the fruits except we go through these procedures. Talking about regular, spending time with God regularly. Spending time in the secret place of the Lord and tapping from the throne room of God. We need to do all of that, but it doesn't end there. It should go on to show us fruits, fruits that are desirable, fruits that are appealing, fruits that are nourishing to others. So that, when a tree is really fruitful, and you will see that the animals, the insects, everyone gathers around the fruit. They want to come and have a bite of it. And that's the evidence that we are truly submitted to God.
Amazing. So by their fruits, we will know them. As we bear the fruits, as we stay in the secret place, and we also come out and we start doing the things that we have heard or we've tapped into in the secret place, and we translate them into things that we are working with daily.
Yeah,
we begin to manifest the fruits of this, the patience, the joy, the self-control, not being, feeling that you have to always be angry as a man to, be a man. Because in the secret place, that you have to be gentle, you have to be kind. All these things are working. Amazing. We need to be praying for you. I think that you have a lot on your plate. There's so much weight and responsibility that God has placed on a man. And I feel that sometimes, I think a lot of men look at it and they're like, how can I do this? But we already said it's in submission to God, because when he gives you an assignment, he will help you to do it.
Yes. God becomes like that receptacle that we fit into. Yes. And then we are able to do what he's asking us to do.
I like that.
Yeah. But if we want to do it just by ourselves, it's so hard. But once we can fit into that bigger receptacle, then we can run.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. This is good. So I think as we are coming on the top of the hour, I want to, you to share with us one of the things that you talked about, is that once we have our purpose defined, we've developed it, do we just check out of this earth that way, or how do we deposit it? How do we, leave a legacy of what we have done and what we are doing with our children, with our, with other men, with other women, with other people in our lives? Deposit the what we've been deposited with, right? So how do we do that? Because a lot of men just drop the mic, they come on the scene, sometimes never even find the purpose, or they find it, but just for me, and then other generations are left out of it. So how do we do that?
I know, right? Living a legacy is not an option, Lady Pastor. It's not an option. I think it's an obligation.
It's an obligation.
It is an obligation because it's in the nature of God. Some of the qualities of God are that God is immortal.
Yeah.
He never dies. And so creating a legacy or living a legacy is one way that we can portray that nature of God.
Yes.
A legacy ensures that you keep living after you are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You keep living after you have left.
After you have left.
And that also speaks to the other nature of God, which is he's omnipresent, everywhere at the same time. And so the legacies that we create ensure that even when you are not at a place, your influence is there.
Amazing. Even when you are not at the place, your influence is still there. It's still felt. So Steve Jobs may not be here, but will his influence be felt? So whatever, Kingdom Man you're watching, when you're not here, would we feel that? Wow.
And what the question is, what comes to mind when your name comes up?
Dr. Joy, what comes to mind when your name comes? that one is a question. I think that is one of the questions that I think Kingdom Men should solicit this Father's Day. What comes to mind when you think about me, right?
When people think about you, when people see your picture, when, what do they associate with you? I think that's your legacy.
That's your legacy.
And in Proverbs, Proverbs 13:22, the word says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Yes.
But not just to your children's children, but to the people who come after you, people who come in contact with you, people who interact with you or in one way or another.
Yes.
And we do have control in this area. And this is not something that we should leave to chance. There's one big concept of living that every Kingdom Man needs to pay attention to, which is intentional living.
Intentional living.
Intentional living. There's a website called The Intentional Life. I think we probably have mentioned it before, but The Intentional Life, it's a good place to go and check out this whole concept of not living our lives to chance, but planning in such a way that we keep, we can almost tell what is going on when we are not there.
Wow.
And life can be short, but we can keep living. We can keep going on. Our influence can keep going on after we are gone. And I remember somebody like Jonathan, just by his loyalty to his friend David, created a legacy that Mephibosheth benefited from long after Jonathan was gone.
Amazing. Amazing.
Amen.
So what you said is so deep that, I think I'll let you continue. It's just, I have to go back and think about it some more.
Just by being a good friend. So somebody is a good friend today, but then you're just a good friend for today. You're not thinking about posterity. But that friendship, that loyalty, that faithfulness can go into many generations to come.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, and in the book, I talked about depositing your purpose. And in that way, I made it so symbolic to mean like actually passing on the baton or actually pouring yourself out into others.
Yeah.
And, the Apostle Paul used the phrase, I am being poured out like a drink offering. So that by the time you are living empty.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Masmuro said, don't die old, die empty.
Die empty. Oh my
So that means that there are some of us who are old, but we are not empty. We are still loaded.
You're still loaded.
We haven't deposited. We haven't poured ourselves out yet. And if you feel, and I believe that we all came loaded, and so for every Kingdom Man out there, I want to encourage that we find an outlet. Let's find, by all means, there are empty places. There are people that are ready, people that are hungry and thirsty for what we are carrying.
Yes.
Dr. Masmuro talked about going to a very, very remote village in Europe, somewhere, I think in Greece. He wanted a quiet vacation, very, very quiet vacation. He got to this place of a few people. He went into the corner store to buy something, and a woman was screaming, Dr. Masmuro, Dr. Masmuro. And He started to bind the demon. He thought it was a demon. And he started to bind that demon, and the woman came to him and said, I have your book. I have your book. And she ran to the house, brought the book for him to autograph. And that was somebody who poured himself out into a medium that somebody in another corner of the world found benefits in. And we can pour ourselves out into a piece of music, a piece of a blog on the internet, right? A book. We can pour people. There are people who even go through tragedies in life and turn that tragedy into a ministry.
Yes, yes.
You can turn it into a ministry, into a movie, and that thing, although the devil meant it for bad, you have turned it around into something that will change the lives of others. So these are all ideas. So let me tell this last story about Dr. Noel, Albert Noel, who is the founder of the Nobel, Albert Nobel, the founder of the Nobel Peace Prize. It was said that his brother died. And this man, Dr. Nobel, he was an inventor of explosives. He invented all these explosives that are used in battle, in the world wars and all of that. And so people associate him to death, killing people, okay? He invents things that kill others.
Yeah.
So one day when his brother died, it looks like the newspaper was expecting that he would die, not his brother. So they mistakenly published his obituary instead of his brother's obituary. And then in the morning, he was holding the newspaper and reading, and he read the headline that said, "The man who spent all his life killing others has died himself." So it jolted him from the seat, right? He didn't want to be seen, to be known. He didn't want to leave the legacy of a person that kills others. And so he decided that he was going to harness all his fortune to establish this peace prize, Nobel Peace Prize, that will reward people for doing good things.
Wow.
That is how one man recreated his legacy.
Recreated his legacy. Dr. Joy, I think right there, I need to ask you a question before our time is out, So stay with us a few more minutes because you want to hear this. So for those men who are thinking about what you're saying today, they are wondering where they are and how far they are from even their purpose and their legacy. Even before they can create a legacy, they are so far off. Is it over?
No.
Is it hopeless? Can they, find their room? Can they recreate their legacy too? Or is it too late?
We all can start from wherever we are.
Even today.
Even today. And it doesn't matter who even decides how far back you are? The thing about it is that most of the time when we say we are behind, we are comparing ourselves to our peers, the people we think are our peers. By the way, the people we think are our peers are not actually our peers.
Hey, wow.
Yeah.
They're not actually our peers.
No.
Wow.
No. And so wherever you are, that is where you start from. And once you are working closely with God and following the principles and taking the baby steps, you will see that once you take the first step, God opens the next step. And very often you will not have the whole map open in front of you.
Yeah.
You will only have one step. Maybe today, the one thing you've heard is to establish a close connection with God. or to recreate your legacy, to begin to live intentionally and go to that website in the intentional life and start something. And maybe that's one thing that has dropped into your spirit. You need to start on that one thing. Work with what you have, because no man is empty-handed. There is something we have. When Moses got to the Red Sea, God said, "What do you have in your hand?"
Wow.
We always start from where we are. We always use what we have in our hand, not what somebody else has that we are hoping to have. Otherwise, we'll be hoping forever.
Yes.
But then there is hope for us. Obviously, I can say that doesn't matter how far back we think we are, we can start today. And then today is the tomorrow that we desperately hoped for yesterday.
Dr. Joy, today is what? The tomorrow
that we desperately hope for yesterday. So tomorrow, and so we can recreate our futures. That's the point. Once we are working closely with God, and once we are submitting ourselves to Him, and definitely opening up to others. In the book, there are 7 things that I shared as your personal fulfillment journey. And I just want to say it's a journey. It's a journey. There are many of us who, the traditional concept of fulfillment is that I will be fulfilled when I arrive.
Yes.
When I finally arrive. But that is true. The Apostle Paul said, "I have fought a good fight. I have finished my race." And that is one idea of fulfillment. But the other idea of fulfillment that appeals very much to me is that I am fulfilled because I am on track.
Yes. Yes.
I am where God wants me to be. I haven't arrived yet. Masterpiece. I haven't arrived yet. I still have some rough edges, but hey, I am work in progress and I am on track. I'm making some feeble steps, and surely God will bring me to an expected end.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, Rosamond just said, he said we need 2 hours with Dr. Joy and not an hour, but we want to be mindful of your time. We are so blessed. I mean, for those of us even who are not the subject matter of this for today, I think that we've all had some nuggets and some things that we can go back and look at and know that we are masterpieces in the making. Wherever you are, you can start from today. You can start making progress. And yes, like Paul said, one thing I do, I forget the things that are behind and I press on. I press on. He kept pressing on before he said that I have finished the race, right? He kept pressing on. So until we get to that place, we can say we finished the race. We can keep pressing on daily, pressing on and trusting the God of our story.
I'm looking at a masterpiece. Oh, you know how to fight.